Welcome to the Hard Gameplay Show. I talk about games and shows. I piss people off with my shit opinions. Now on to the video.
That being said, do you think it was appropriate to post it on YouTube? And also, is it like monetized? So like, are you getting ad revenue off of posting this, man, where maybe you probably should have deactivated the camera or whatever and just said like, yeah, I'm gonna call the cops if you don't basically bugger off?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because obviously being out in the real world, you're going to come across real world situations which may or may not be flattering to the people involved. Yeah, and you're probably right. He probably was at some stage. Obviously, I didn't ask, of either he was not in his right mind to some degree, be it drugs,
Yeah.
whatever, mental illness.
Classic again, Cart Narcs. Oh, fully 4-quarter grass in it. Keep wheeling, weeps, keep whoop whoop. That's not where the cart goes, sir. Come on now. Said, you know the cars don't go there, sir. Agent Cordell here, Cart Narcs. Yeah, cart returns all over the place around here.
Okay. Are you gonna get it for me?
No, sir, I'm a cart narc. I narc out people that don't get their carts.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, let them know. Let them know I didn't put it back.
Well, I'm gonna let you know first. I'm giving you a chance to redeem yourself.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Why? How can you be good being a lazy bones?
Sorry, man. I hope you have a good day.
Well, I'm gonna give you our bumper hood of well, it's more of a service vehicle than a car.
This is my company. This is my truck. Don't touch it.
Well, this is just a magnet.
Don't do it. Don't put that shit
It's
on my
non-marking, sir.
Don't put that shit on my
Well, let me you see what it's
Okay, so I even spoke to my supervisor about it, and his mind is exactly where mine is. It doesn't quite meet the elements of the classy misdemeanor. Brandishing is actually different in Texas. It's got to be a little bit different. But this would come under, if it met the full elements of it, would be a classy misdemeanor, which would be disorderly conduct by displaying a firearm.
Okay.
However, it kind of has in there that it's on somebody else's property, it's in his own truck, he doesn't know what's going on. I'm not saying that's the case, but I'm saying that's what he's going to say.
I can play the audio that tells a different story completely.
The attorney is basically going to say the elements aren't met on it. We're not going to be able to charge the guy with it.
Hi there, guys. So it's been a hot minute since I posted. I had a video in the works, and it was going off of a prompt from Thought Slime about what your ideal world would look like, but it was long-winded. It was a little bit preachy, frankly, and then real life decided to get real fucking weird, politically and personally, so I scrapped it. And then my phone did this lovely thing where the battery bloated and tried to catch on fire. So the editing software that I had, which was on my phone, obviously went with the phone. So I'm back. I didn't intend to leave for quite as long, and that's shitty. But that's okay, and that's on topic because we're going to talk about shitty behavior. Don't you hate it when people leave their shopping carts out? Like, it takes 1 minute to put it away. Leaving it out takes up room, makes it harder for people who already aren't paid enough to do their jobs. Oftentimes, it's left in handicapped parking zones and can just roll away and be blown into cars. It's annoying, and it's so easy to put it away that there's like a whole theory called the shopping cart theory. Basically, it's a theory that allows for you to tell how morally ethical someone is and how they self-govern themselves when nobody's looking, based on whether or not they put their shopping cart away. Nobody's going to cost you for not putting it away. There's no rules against leaving it in the parking lot. The only thing that will happen is that someone, usually someone that you don't know, will have to put it away for you. So there's really no consequence at all to you leaving it out. Or at least there never used to be. Enter the Cart Narcs on YouTube.
Don't hit me, ma'am.
I'm not gonna hit you. I'm gonna take your glasses. I'm gonna throw them on the ground.
I'm Agent Sebastian. I'm the founder of the Cart Narcs. Cart Narcs are an independent organization that tries to get people to just take their cart back to the cart return. That's not where the carts go, it's the mulch. When I do see that some lazy bones has left their cart out, I turn on the wand of justice and activate the mouth siren. That's not where the carts go, it's the middle of the spot. We've had hundreds of encounters. I've had many threats on my life being a cart narc. Besides a guy pulling a gun on me, I've had multiple people say they're gonna run me over. Well, sir, that's not nice. Sir, that's against the law. There's definitely an adrenaline rush.
Go yourself,
ma'am.
Cart Narc. How about that?
This is my uniform. I have an equipment vest, which is actually a bulletproof vest. I put my body camera right here. Captures everything that happens so nobody can lie about it afterwards. That's curbing, sir.
You know that's against the law to videotape somebody.
I have this wand here which lights up. It shows that I'm highly visible.
I threw drink on you,
That's
little
assault.
girl, okay?
And
You're a little girl.
And as a feminist, I take offense with that. After I ask them nicely to return their cart, if they still don't do it, I slap on a bumper magnet for shame.
Now, before any of you guys get my comments calling me a lazy bone Karen, I always put my cart away. I go out of my way to put other people's cart away, and I walk to the store, so more often than not, I use a basket. So you really can't call me a lazy bones or Karen. I know I'm going to be critical of them in this video, but do know that I like their content and I'm subscribed to them. But just because you like something doesn't mean that it should be consumed without criticism or critical thought. Now, if this seems a little bit more rough, I had a whole script planned out, but some of that got tossed out because I reached out to the Cart Narcs in email, shot them some questions, and then the main dude was like, hey, let's do a Zoom call. So a lot of the things that I had written in the early half of this video essay is undone by some of his responses. So this is going to be a little bit of a looser thing. I'm just going off of my notes here basically, so ignore me if I seem a little less polished. So the Cart Narcs is a YouTube channel run by one guy who goes across the US putting on different little accents. He waits in parking lots waiting for people to come out, unload their groceries, and then leave their shopping carts out and try to drive away. He calls these people lazy bone Karens. When they come and they do this, he comes with a little bulletproof vest with the Cart Narcs little logo on it and a light up pylon. He makes weird noises and he calls them out and he tries to get them to put their cart away. So he does this by coming up, making weird noises, as I say. He usually tries to talk to them beforehand. He will be like, hey, why'd you leave your cart out? And then if they don't do anything, he'll slap a magnet on their car or a sticker and let them drive off, in theory. In practice, oftentimes he kind of follows them across the entire parking lot until they either put their cart away, make a fool of themselves, or just drive off. Now, if you've been on the internet for any amount of time, you've probably heard of them. They had a TikTok, which has now been taken down. They've been on Dr. Phil. They've been reacted to by Cinnamon Toast Ken. And I do say they, it's one person, but it's the Cart Narcs, so I'm gonna say they interchangeably. Just know that I'm talking about one dude. But they are a big channel / platform. I actually did add up all the numbers. So they have 371,000 subscribers on YouTube, 24,000 subscribers on Twitter, or followers, I guess, 593,000 on Facebook, 386 on Instagram, and I don't know how much they had on TikTok. But basically, they have over 1 million followers if you combine all of their platforms. And if you watch their content every now and then, they seem totally harmless. Like I said, I am a casual enjoyer of their videos. I watch them every now and then, and there's a sort of justice in seeing someone, call out assholes for leaving their shit out, especially if you're a minimum wage worker and you have to put up with, people just making a mess and expecting you to clean up, like when you're in movie theaters and they just leave their popcorn and their garbage there because, it's someone's job to clean it up. In this case, shopping cart. People will often be like, oh, well, it's the minimum wage worker's job to put the cart away, which is actually not true, turns out. So on the face, the Cart Narcs is a sort of a shopping cart vigilante channel, and I can easily see how people think it's harmless, and people love them all across the internet. However, if you watch them more than casually, you start to see the cracks in what they do and sort of the ethical paradox that comes out of it. Just off the top of my head, I can think of a few instances, and I actually will go over this in the interview with him, but there are more than a few instances where he's just downright ableist, where he plays into racial tropes, where he harasses people, and will stalk them right out of the
driving Agent Sebastian. He's trying to encourage a sense of responsibility, but his efforts at fostering responsibility often just make things worse. He gives a variety of reasons for why it's bad to leave your cart out, but his own actions frequently directly worsen the problems he identifies. Like, he says that not returning your cart makes employees' jobs harder because they have to round up stray carts. That's true, but it makes their jobs even harder if they have to de-escalate fights between assholes in the parking lot.
This is a private property.
Oh no, I totally understand. Totally understand. I was just.
I don't want this to get escalated.
Oh, me neither. Me neither.
When somebody says they don't want to deal with you, don't want to talk to you, you have enough respect to turn your ass around.
What if they're doing?
He says that shopping carts inconvenience drivers when they block parking spots. Drivers are even more inconvenienced when you create a multi-car backup riling someone up at the parking lot exit.
Thank you, please knock at her.
Sebastian also says that the shopping cart problem is particularly consequential for disabled people because carts are sometimes left in handicapped parking spots. But one reason that people sometimes don't return their carts is because of disabilities that reduce their mobility or make the extra walk across the parking lot painful or tiring. And Sebastian has no sympathy for this. When he sees someone in a handicapped parking spot, his immediate assumption is that they don't actually have a disability.
Person in a handicapped spot, which, by the way, clearly she doesn't need.
And if the person tells him otherwise, he mocks them.
I do have a handicap, actually.
Well,
so just letting you know, but I get what you're saying.
Is it lazy bonesitis? But like
I'm sorry, wait, what?
Is your disability lazy?
A few times he put a cart behind someone's car to stop them from backing out, or he'll chase them around the parking lot a bit.
Legal
One time he followed these people away from the store to like a storage unit and refused to leave them alone.
Can I at least have a hug? Maybe a kiss?
People get pissed off at him and yell at him and threaten to murder him.
I'm a killer.
Well, sir, that's not nice.
I'm fixing to put about 6 right in your forehead.
Sir, that's against the law.
And of course, he's filming the whole thing with a GoPro and uploads the encounters to YouTube to publicly shame and ridicule the cart offenders.
More than a few instances where he's just downright ableist, where he plays into racial tropes, where he harasses people, and will stalk them right out of the parking lot. And it's when he gets into things like that the Cart Narcs go from being like a fun, silly little haha asshole, just put your cart away, to okay, maybe this guy might actually be a problem. And I'm not the only one that thinks that way. Dr. Phil had him on, and don't cringe, I know Dr. Phil is an asshole, but here are some things he had to say about him.
But it goes further. It goes one step further. Dr. Phil goes and gets his mom. Cart Narcs' mom insists he's totally respectable. You know?
Well, Karen, thank you for being here.
Oh, no! Her name's Karen!
Oh, my God, that explains everything! All the dots have been connected.
She's a lovely lady.
Now, aside from this shopping cart mission in life, you're really proud of your son, right?
Absolutely.
I mean,
now, not even aside from that, Dr. Phil, I'm proud of him even with the shopping carts. What are you talking about?
Right.
Done very well in school. He's clearly intelligent, very articulate. He has problems with his pronouns, but other than that, he's very...
It's like the only thing Dr. Phil can talk about. That's it. That's all Dr. Phil has to say about this whole thing.
Wow.
He's volunteered with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and you know, given of his time. You have to be proud of that too, as well, right?
Of course I am.
No, yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Right.
I've seen that, I think a couple of comments throughout watching this stuff is like talking about like, well, why don't you just do something like better with his time that would actually help people, like willing to go like work in the soup kitchen or something like that. Well, apparently he is donating his time. So there you go. Yeah. Wow. All right.
Shaming people, name calling, those things actually demotivate people.
He's over like rolling and he's like, oh God, Dr. Phil, please.
Dr. Phil just said that to me.
You're a big guy.
Evidence contradicts what you're saying. The evidence says that you can inspire change, but you can't shame change.
So it's clear the main guy has, the only guy, Sebastian has a bit of an over-the-top personality. There's something to be said about maybe him playing it up for live TV, which is always possible, and playing it up for YouTube. I think the platform in particular definitely affects how he comes off to people, because he was completely personable in our conversation, was definitely not as combative. So I do think that a certain amount of his behavior, especially the more toxic sides, come out when the camera is on. Obviously, I'm not a major creator or anything, but when the cameras are on, he can sometimes lose his tact and his grace that he seems to carry otherwise. This really comes out in the names of his videos. You can see examples of him playing into racist stereotypes with Sideshow Slob on a video about a black man serious as a car attack, on a video about an older and larger man, the soul that lies within, another video on a black woman, and he will comment about this later. If you just watch a little bit further, he'll address some of these. No discrimination on a video of a black woman, and Wanker on a video of a guy who is clearly homeless and a little bit mentally ill, wanking in the parking lot. These are only a few titles. I could give a lot more, and maybe I should have, because he seemed to wave them off in the interview. But there are a lot of these videos with a lot of these titles that are like this. I do think that most of it is maybe a bit of a failed attempt at humor. Most of the YouTube video names are kind of funny and they play into what happens in the video. However, I feel oftentimes they tend to lean into more problematic stereotypes, which is not super, especially if you're claiming to be the moral high ground in any given situation. Now, their tactics are, as I mentioned earlier, he will come up, he'll try to flag you down with his pylon, get your attention, and if you don't return the cart, he will put a bumper sticker on your car or a sticker on your window. A lot of the time, people will just put the cart back or kind of like brush them off, in which case that's fine, and that doesn't actually yield a whole lot of interesting videos. But in many cases, people become antagonistic, and so when they freak out on Sebastian for his actions, he dials it up to 10. He mentions it as giving them the opportunity to make a fool of themselves, but if you watch them, there are many cases wherein you can see that he is actually just being kind of the villain in the situation and antagonizing him. Take, I forget the name of the video, it'll be on the screen somewhere, but it's the first video that Cementos Ken did, and it's with a guy, and this guy admittedly loses his shit. He follows him across the parking lot. It's like a 10-minute long video, but the entire time you can see Sebastian pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. That guy's nephew contacted the channel and he was like, hey, the Cementos Ken channel. Actually, I think it was Buff Pro. And he was like, hey, this guy is actually not that bad. You know, I'll just play.
I got a message. I don't know if did I tell you this last time? Someone messaged me. It's like, man, just watched the video of you and Ken doing Cart Narcs. He goes, I just want to say, that dude is my uncle. Not the narc, but the other guy.
wait, what?
Yeah, they were like, the other guy was my uncle, and
this dude's
he's
his
actually
uncle.
it was like, actually, he's a really nice guy. They caught him on a bad day, and he's actually he's actually a really good dude. He gives to a lot of charities and such. And I was like, nah, that's cool, man. I was like, we was just laughing, having fun. All right, no, I'm glad he's.
And this isn't the first time that he's done things like this. This isn't like a single thing. I'm gonna play a clip right now, and in it you'll see a person that he's accosting, and they're holding up traffic. And let me just show you how it plays out, and I'll let you decide what his part is in this interaction.
Don't be a litter bug. Here, I'll put one on the back of your car here for you. Madam.
Knock it off right now.
Now,
I mean it.
I will if you take your card back. Would you like to do that for me?
Knock it off.
Knock what off? Being a responsible person?
Touch my stuff.
That's okay. It's for you. See, he's got our phone number on it. You can call.
Don't bother me right now. I mean it.
But you're bothering people by blocking the spot. Do you understand the correlation, madam?
You're starting this shit. Back the fuck off.
You started it with your card, ma'am. All I did was ask you.
What they pay people for.
But, ma'am, what's your
name? Leave me the fuck alone.
Wait.
I mean it.
Okay,
leave me.
I got more.
Get the fuck away from me.
What are you doing? You're blocking traffic now.
You're starting shit.
Ma'am, you started the poop with your.
Do not get anywhere near me.
How about this?
Stop. Stop.
Do you want to have a conversation, be civil, or do you want to yell like a big old sourpuss?
Me.
I didn't touch you. I never have.
You're touching my shit. Stop.
And someone else is going to touch you with your cart when they try to pull in there.
Stop.
Get away.
Sir, did you see what she did with her cart?
Get out of there.
See, now you're overreacting. You're falling for her tricks. I'll give you one right there.
What are you fucking talking about?
That's what I'm talking about. It's the carts.
Stop it.
Man. The classic thing, by overreacting, what you're doing is trying to make yourself into the victim. When everybody with the cart's the victim. Thank you. Please knock at her. She's being a.
Stop.
All right, because you're causing a public safety nuisance. I will stop.
I'm about to call the cops. No.
Let me explain. You don't know the whole story.
No.
Yes, you do.
How
do you know?
I don't care.
Yes, you do need to care. Because
I don't care. I'm a random person. I
exactly.
People have to go.
That's why I'm stopping. That's why I'm stopping.
Okay.
Because she's causing. I understand that. I understand that.
I don't give a fuck.
Madam,
I don't give a fuck.
this is the problem. Is you don't want to hear and have a conversation. You just want to yell and scream and be a sourpuss again. But I am Cart Narcs. You might say, oh, what's he doing? I'm acting responsible. You know who's acting the fool is the person who left their card out. That's who's acting the fool. Sorry, I had to.
Now, if you don't see a problem with that, alright, that's your prerogative, but let's talk ethics for a moment. The cart theory is what it is because by nature it has no victims. There's no one that's going to be hurt by you leaving your cart out. It's just about self-governance. If you put it away, you're a normal person that can behave within society. If you don't, you're a lazy dickhead that clearly only follows rules because someone's going to enforce them. There's really no victims or villains in this situation. I do not think that the same can be said about the Cart Narcs videos. So the Cart Narcs videotape all their interactions, and I'm not sure if they post all of them, but they post obviously a lot. However, there are some things that just should not be posted online. I brought up the video wanker earlier in this video, and I hope that this doesn't get this taken down. But I brought that video up because obviously you don't see anything, but he videotapes this guy and he calls him out. He's like, oh, what are you doing, blah, blah. It is a relatively short video, but the video is monetized the last time I checked. And now he never brings up, when we speak to him in the interview, he never brings up the fact that his videos are monetized, but it was. So he is making ad revenue off of posting this guy. Clearly having an episode and making money off of it. And I don't think that that's appropriate or ethical in any way. So it's that video is really starting to show the cracks in what he does, because he's kind of gotten down to a formula of what he can and cannot post, but the further you go back, the worse some of the videos can get. So you have the wanker, you have a video where he follows someone out of the parking lot and into a storage unit across town. He has a video where he claims that someone is not disabled and that she lied, and she basically paid off the doctor to give her a parking pass. So it's very clear that he doesn't doesn't really believe in mental illness or any sort of excuse of anyone on any part. I'm not saying there should be excuse for wanking in public. I'm just saying that he's very clearly profiting off of people's mental illnesses while claiming that either they are not mentally ill or there was nothing wrong with his actions. And he will go over this in the interview if you just wait a little bit. I personally don't think that if you are trying to uphold morals and ethics of shopping carts that you should be doing this. I think his actions in these cases are way, way worse than leaving the shopping cart out and outweighs it, but you don't see anyone policing him or going after him or whatever. So it starts to really bring up the questions like, is this about ethics? Is this about personal policing and self-governance and all that? Or is it just because this is a mild annoyance that you know people are going to support you for calling out and it gets you views and money? He also talks about having specific training. Obviously, no organization trained him to do this. Like, this is clearly just a him thing. He says that he has training in Krav Maga and conflict avoidance, which is, well, it's very clearly a lie considering he causes all of the conflict in all of the videos. My thing is it morally ethical to claim to have specific training, to claim that you've been trained to do things like this, well, knowing that that's only a half-truth? Is it morally ethical to go into a company's property and harass its customers? Does this not make the minimum wage workers' lives much harder than, you know, just having to take back the cart? Because you can see in many videos the minimum wage workers coming in and having to be asked to break it up. And Sebastian will claim that, oh, they like them. So many people say that he likes this channel. And like, yeah, you can like your channel and still be annoyed that you have to de-escalate a situation. As someone who's worked in minimum wage customer service jobs at Tim Hortons, de-escalating a problem, no matter how valid one side of it is always a pain in the ass, and oftentimes results in someone calling the company or corporate to try to complain about you because you didn't solve their situation correctly. So you cannot convince me, even if these people like him, that his actions have no consequence on them and their job and their security. I'd also like to point out that just because he hasn't been trespassed yet doesn't mean that he's welcome, and at some point he must know this because there are a few episodes where he has a walkie-talkie talking to someone who is like warning him on certain people and pointing things out. So you have to wonder how much he is actually tolerated in these stores. I would also like to ask the viewers, is it morally ethical to goat people into outbursts? Because no matter where you fall on your support of this channel, you can see that he does goat people into outbursts and poke and prod until they freak out. And I know people will say that these are Karens and like they deserve these things to happen to them and blah blah blah, and who am I to say like that this is wrong or unethical, because obviously they're assholes in their own life. But I don't think I am qualified to answer that or even talk about that, so I'm going to refer to Psychology of a Karen by Healthy Chambers. Oh my god. This is what happens when I don't script. By Healthy Gamers GG. Dr. Alok Kanjoya, I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce your name, sir, is a psychiatrist who graduated from the University of Texas in Austin for his Bachelor of Science and Tufts University School of Medicine for his MD and MPH. That's how you say letters. He talks about how Karens are usually some form of a cluster B personality disorder, whether diagnosed or not. And he goes on to essentially say that Karen outbursts are generally products of a combination of upbringing, stress, and the situation. I'm not going to summarize it very well, so I'm going to cut down this very long video and put some clips in right here. Make sure to check out his video on this if you want more in-depth information. Now I want to relate that back to the videos, and I'm not going to claim that like all these people have cluster B personality disorders. They're all mentally ill. Obviously, a lot of these people are just dickheads. However, you have to imagine that some of these people do have these personality disorders, and even if they don't, the Cart Narcs are kind of catching someone out doing something that they know is wrong. Whether they're on a bad day, whether they've just been broken up, they know that it's wrong. And if you combine it with the other factors into what's going on in their day, not that we know any of that because we only see the interaction, mixed with the guy coming up, making weird noises at you and slapping things on your car, I can easily see how he can often easily produce major outbursts from even the most chill guy. Like we said earlier, with the one person's uncle who, like, apparently completely nice guy, like, gives to charity, all that, is never rude, but he was goaded into this interaction, this over-the-top interaction, with the Cart Narcs because he was just having a bad day. I feel like Sebastian needs to understand that a lot of these people would not act this way in a normal situation, and it is very specifically a not normal situation that he is putting them in. But he doesn't seem to really care. If you ask him, it's like, oh, they're all selfish idiots, like they're lazy bones, it's all their fault. I have no input on any of this. And I brought this up in the interview, but I want to take the ethics and everything away, the situation away. If you were in your car and a guy in a bulletproof vest with a baton started coming up on you and hooping and hollering and putting something on your car and stalking you, many people, especially female presenting people, are going to get nervous. As a non-binary female presenting person, if that were to happen to me, I don't care how good your intentions are, my immediate response is going to be, all right, that guy just marked me for trafficking, basically. Especially because online we have a lot of usually false information where people think that they've been tagged for trafficking because they found like a plastic bag on their car or like a rock under their wheel. This is a very interesting point in time where people are very paranoid and very nervous about trafficking and about being trafficked. And just in general, I don't know if you guys live in a bad part of town or if you have any experience with this, but in general, if you live in a bad part of town and someone puts something on your car and follows you around the parking lot, I feel like most people's reaction would be, okay, they're definitely going to try to rob me at some point. It's just, he doesn't acknowledge the fact that he can often come off as intimidating to people, because the sort of reaction, sort of action is not normal, and it is intimidation. Whether he acknowledges that as valid or not, it is a very good way to immediately have people up in arms, which more sets up for their outburst when they find out, oh, this is over fucking just shopping cart, really? So I think he needs to be a little bit more cognizant of the way that he does things and comes off to people. I think the Cart Narcs is a bit of an ethical paradox. They go out in order to stop people from being slightly selfish and annoying and just not very considerate, but they do this by accosting them, harassing them in public, videotaping them at their worst time, profiting off the videotapes, pushing them into public outbursts that can embarrass them and make them fools to over 1 million people, and just generally being an asshole. They don't really have any information on them. If you go to all of their links across all their platforms, they have a website which just redirects to a merch site. They have a hotline number that you can call that they blur out. Sebastian says that he stopped blurring them out, but from every video that I have seen, they're blurred out. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I have missed something, but you know, it's not public information. They don't have any major, like, this is what we're about, this is what we stand for. So there's no way to kind of hold them accountable and see what they're doing. All you see are his sides of the situation, starting from the conflict going on. You don't get any information. You don't really get to hold them accountable. You don't get to call and see what's going on about, like, what they're up to. All you see is the Lazybone Karens and the good guy vigilante Cart Narcs. I am not surprised about this, however, because I did go and I did some research before doing this video, watching other videos, and Sebastian admits to basically being a bit of a Karen himself on a podcast. Let me play you a clip from the letter 50.
Outside of being a cart narc, Sebastian is also just a narc in general. Not like a literal federal narcotics agent, but a snitch. On The Woody Show and in interviews, he repeatedly talks about how often he calls the cops.
I will call either 911 or the non-emergency number like once a month.
Once a month? Are you just like lonely? Here's one example of someone he called the police on.
So there's this guy who sits outside this shopping center with like a grocery store and the gym I go to. He sits there in a wheelchair. He can walk. His gross feet are out, Ravy, which I know you don't support. Almost always has an open bottle of vodka with him and some smokes. And then, homeless, please help. And I called the cops. The cops called me back eventually, like their public information officer, saying, well, we've gotten complaints, but people keep giving him money and keep giving him food.
What? Yeah. Dude, you gotta
arrest him!
Arrest him for what?
Panhandling, which is against the law. Blocking the sidewalk, which is against the law. Drinking in public, which is definitely against the law.
Does this offend you, Sebastian?
Yeah, so that's not good. It's not good at all. And you can see how someone who acts and thinks like that would do things like recording a homeless man wanking in public. But I feel like I've made my point enough, or at least talked enough, and shown enough proof that they are a little bit less than moral. So I did this thing where I reached out via email to see if I could get a email back. I sent them a bunch of questions. And Sebastian's like, you know what, let's just do this over a Zoom call. So without further ado, here is that Zoom call.
All right, there we go.
Hi there.
Hey, how's it going? You hear me
Good,
all right?
how are you? Yeah,
Good.
I can hear you fine.
Fantastic. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I'm Desiree, as I said in the email. Did you get a chance to read through the questions, or?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Okay, perfect.
Pretty good stuff there.
Yeah, I just figured, I was making a video. I might as well reach out, see your input on some stuff.
That's responsible. A lot of people don't, not with me, but just in general, don't bother to do that.
Yeah, I've noticed. Make like 50-minute long videos and not even reach out to the person. Okay, so the questions have been formed from just my own viewing of your channel, and then some other friends and what they thought. I am a fan of the Cart Narcs. I found you guys through some Mentos Ken, and I have to admit, love your content. Keep doing what you're doing because people need to be held accountable. So we'll just get right into it then. How did you start doing this? How did you get into all this?
Yeah, it's I wish I had a more dramatic story for it. It was just a conversation with a guy in the office about this style of things. And when you watch Cart Narcs videos, the style is not the style for me, but the style for the people is doing something that you know is going to be a problem for other people, but you also know it's your responsibility to pick up after yourself. So leaving your shopping cart out is just one of many of these types of things. And that's what our conversation was about, was like, why do people, not pick up their weights at the gym? When you use your weights, and then I see it here all the time, where they're just like, oh, just on the ground. But you got it off a rack. The rack has a place for it. Same thing with carts. There's a cart return. You see it, it's right there. Most of them have a little sign that either says carts go here, or please return your cart, blah, 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 blah. Even if it didn't have a sign, you know what it's there for, but you're done with the cart, so leave it for somebody else. It goes down the list of picking up after yourself. And my sort of MO in life is I go out and instead of just talking about problems, I kind of deal with them, or at least examine them. And that's what happened with Cart Narcs is didn't have all the quote fancy magnets and stuff. It's just me walking around to a parking lot, and when someone left their cart out, I would say, "Oh, why'd you do that?" Nicely, like I do now, if a bit passive aggressively, but not cruel and not aggressive. And and people just started flying off the handle. It's like, what? Wait, whoa. And I kind of realized, oh, they're doing this because they're caught. They're busted. And so they are defensive. Mostly. Some aren't. Some are sweet and are like, God, I'm right. But yeah, the start of it was just, why do people do this? Let's find out. And that's what, and then kind of, as I observed people's behavior, it kind of evolved from there.
Oh, okay, awesome. And clearly it's a hit. Like, people love it. I've seen them ranting and raving about it on like YouTube, on TikTok. I think I've seen your clips go around on Reddit. Like, people love what you do. Clearly it's needed because people are just leaving their shit out. And as someone who has worked as a minimum wage person, we don't get paid enough to deal with that shit. Put your stuff away.
Great.
So the next question is, so I've seen you guys put these bumper stickers, like the magnets and the stickers on the cars. They have a 1-800 number on it. Is there a reason why you guys blur them out for the YouTube channel? Why that wouldn't be like public knowledge? Or
Yeah, it's I've gone both ways on whether or not to blur out the number. Is initially I was blurring out the number because we didn't know, like, would we just get a ton of prank calls, and therefore you really couldn't talk to the people because you have to sift through all the garbage. And eventually, more recently, I've stopped blurring it out because it's not a bunch of prank calls for the most part. It's mostly people who are like, oh, I saw your number, great, thanks for doing what you do. Like, mostly positive, but it's not a ton of those either. So that was just something where, like a lot of stuff with Cart Narcs, I didn't really know what would happen, and then we've kind of been adapting as we go here. So yeah, it seemed like the right thing to do to start with, but it turned out it wasn't necessary.
that's fair. And unrelated, but do you get like a lot of actual calls from these people? Because some of the people that I see, they seem like the type of people that they don't give two shits. But do you ever have anyone that's like, listen, I actually did like leave the card out? Do you get many legitimate calls? Or
Well, a handful. Unfortunately, they're mostly still angry. They're mostly, or it's the spouse of someone who is now angry, or at the very least, if not even angry, just defiant. So the idea would be that someone hopefully would be like, "Oh God, you're right. I'm sorry. Hey, if you wanna, I apologize, etc., and so on and so forth." That hadn't really happened too much, unfortunately. So again, because didn't know what would happen when I started putting that out there, and that's sort of how it's boiled out. You could say, unfortunately, for human nature.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So you have a website link, and it links you to, I forget the name of it, this podcast, I think, and it's a merch site on there. Have you guys considered making a proper website? Because you do a public service, right? So have you considered making a actual website that has like information like, this is what we stand for, this is our codes of ethics, this is what we do, blah blah blah?
Right.
Or is it just...
No, that's a really good point, and it's a weird thing with behind the scenes stuff. So the idea for Cart Narcs came, like I said, from a conversation in an office with a coworker, but we both worked for a radio show, The Woody Show. And because when I first presented it, it was on the radio show, they already had a setup with the merchandise store it's for the ASPCA, I believe. It's Cart Narcs stickers and t-shirts. There's no profit from that. It's just for charity. And because all of their store stuff was already for charity, if people wanted to get a Cart Narcs whatever, it had to, because I worked for a company, iHeartMedia, it had to go through that. So the easiest part of it was just to link it to that merch site. So I totally hear what you're saying, and it would make sense to do that, but it's a weird behind the scenes thing.
Yeah, I guess there'd be like legal things to consider.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even legal issues. It's just, it was more simple and straightforward to point people to that, as opposed to creating a different site and then putting that link in there, at least for the time being. But
Okay.
It's a good point.
All right. So you obviously know that you meet some batshit people that they're down to fight. Do you ever have people that come looking for like a legal battle? I think you brought up having a lawyer on a few times to see part of the firm. Like, how do you go around protecting yourself legally? And I guess, have you had to protect yourself legally? from anyone.
Yeah, that's a good question. And because you hear that a lot in some of the videos, at least, where people say, "I'll sue you" or "I'll come after you for blah blah blah," because they're grasping for straws. You know, if they're going to hit me, or they're going to beat me up, but then they're going to sue me somehow. That's happened in several videos where they've either tried to attack me or threatened to attack me, and then said afterwards, "I'm going to sue you." And it kind of shows it shows like people's negotiation techniques. People talk about this in tactics, like what are my options to solve my problem that I'm in. In this case, their problem is they didn't return their cart, and they got someone asking them to do so with a bumper magnet, perhaps. So I have insurance, I have liability insurance, I have a lawyer on retainer, but no, I've never actually been sued, and I've never actually been criminally charged because not really doing anything. You could maybe in some jurisdictions make a case for like whatever they would get, like a ticket for, let's say they caught somebody leaving out flyers for a club in a parking lot, like whatever that ticket would be, possibly. But I'm not doing that to like every car there. I have a specific purpose, and people throw around like they throw around harassment, but what I'm not doing is not legal harassment, or else number one, my videos would not be allowed because I'd be doing an illegal thing. Actual legal harassment is more like stalking. It's more persistent over a long period of time, not a 5-minute conversation with a purpose in a parking lot in public. It's more like following someone to their house or to their work or to their school, etc., etc. Now, I've said this before, I would enjoy, perversely, being sued civilly, because it'd be fun to watch the person, at least from the the interactions I've had so far, try to defend themselves. And I believe, I don't know for a fact, but I am pretty sure that people in our videos have at least consulted lawyers. And I'm not in that room with them, but you got to figure that the lawyer, if he knew that he had a case, would have taken the case.
Yeah.
And, if he saw there was money to be had, there's plenty of lawyers out there. You see it every day. So yes, I do have legal representation ready, insurance ready. But again, we're pretty darn careful about not breaking any laws criminally or violating any civil statutes.
Okay, and obviously, like, you've never had any problems with the shopping centers that you post up on, because I imagine some of them might not be so keen to your help or whatever, right?
Because you could see that in a few. And again, the vast majority of interactions, either privately or publicly, that I get with employees are very positive. But I put myself, especially in like a manager's position, if you got some raving lunatic of a customer. And use a couple of videos, you can see this, especially there's one in Vegas that's plays this out perfectly, where she was still in her car. She called the store from her car. Manager comes huffing and puffing out with the security guard. She's like, "You can't be here." And I tried to explain, no, you don't have the whole story. You don't know what happened. You got to get out of here, got to get out. And I always say that I'm not here to make the manager's job harder, so I don't fight that at all. If they ask me to leave, I leave. Now, to that point, though, if I stayed there and said, "No, I am staying," then obviously that's trespassing. But I don't do that because for two reasons. Number one, I don't want to be charged with trespassing. And number two, I don't want to make their job harder. My purpose is to make the world better, not harder for people. So that's the kind of legal issue I have with, or that I'm aware of, I should say, by being respectful of the employees' requests.
Okay, fair enough. So moving on to a little more hard-hitting bit here. So there are a few videos. I'm thinking of two in particular. One where you guys come across a guy who is clearly homeless, disheveled in the parking lot, waking up. Bad thing. Nobody's going to argue with that. That shouldn't be there. There are kids and stuff like that. That's fucked up. That being said, do you think it was appropriate to post it on YouTube? And also, is it like monetized? So like, are you getting ad revenue off of posting this man, where maybe you probably should have deactivated the camera or whatever and just said like, I'm going to call the cops if you don't basically bugger off?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because obviously being out in the real world, you're going to come across real world situations, which may or may not be flattering to the people involved. And it's and you're probably right. He probably was at some stage. Obviously, I didn't ask, of either he was not in his right mind to some degree, be it drugs, whatever, mental illness, and I'm very conscious of that. My grandmother was, I should say, in a home, in a mental health facility. Is my entire life, not her entire life, or else she probably wouldn't be my grandmother. So I'm very aware of that sort of issue. But in that case, obviously we don't see his penis, but we do see what he's doing. And it's, I don't know, I feel like it was lighthearted enough, and it was one of our earlier videos, obviously, that it's more of a slice of life. And I guess it comes down to a matter of taste. Like you said, some people may not post that. And I don't know, I guess it just kind of goes with what, like you said, what people find interesting or observable. Some people wouldn't want to see that. And I totally respect that and agree with that. And other people will think it's gross or whatever. So, you raise an interesting point, but to me, it's a matter of taste. Maybe I have not as good taste as some folks, I suppose, is how I could answer that.
All right, fair enough. And on the matter of taste, now all of your videos have some sort of jest in the title. Like, you're obviously trying to keep it lighthearted and stuff. You're not trying to go out there and be like an asshole to people or whatever. But I have noticed,
I allow them to be the a-hole for the most part. I mean, some people argue
you
that.
bait them in sometimes. You give them the opportunity.
I invite them to be an asshole if they want to be. Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. But I've noticed, and some of my friends have brought it up as well when viewing your channel, that sometimes your videos can kind of err on the side of racially insensitive. So we're talking Sideshow Slob, we're talking a black man in that, Soul Lies Within, which is also about a black woman, and No Discrimination, which is a video of a black woman. Are these just, you think maybe people are being too sensitive when they bring this up, or maybe
I don't think it's they're being too sensitive. I think maybe they're looking for meanings that I'm not intending.
Oh, okay.
The Sideshow Slob video, the guy's hair looks like Sideshow Bob's hair, who is portrayed by Kelsey Grammer, a white male. So that's simply, and I don't know that man's in that video. It was in Washington State, because I posted that one on Facebook, and that was every comment was, "Oh, Sideshow Bob is being a real jerk" or whatever, and so it was an easy Simpsons reference. So, which again, to a white character. So that's something I think people are looking into it a little too much.
Okay.
That other video you're talking about, The Soul That Lies Within, that was south of Atlanta, and that's what her T-shirt is quoting.
Oh, okay.
And people maybe aren't realizing that it was it's a line. I'll have to look it up specifically to get exactly what it is, but it's a line from a philosopher who I believe is Indian, but I think her shirt was quoting and then Erykah Badu, I believe, used that line in a song, which is probably what her shirt was referencing, was more the pop culture aspect of it. But yeah, if you read her shirt, and obviously the comment there is, well, what kind of, if that's, you're saying, oh, this is my soul, what kind of soul do you have if you're willing to, fight with me over, and number one, be a jerk and leave your card out, number two, fight with me over it to the extent that she was. So that's, again, I think someone looking for a problem that has nothing to do with the reference. The reference is her T-shirt. And then the last one you had, in 1 second, let me pull it up here. No Discrimination. That I believe she, because I don't talk about this too much in the videos themselves, but in a few different videos, I have been accused by a person of color while the video is occurring of discriminating against them. Let me see if I can pull that one up exactly. Okay, yeah, no, this one. This is that's north of LA, between LA and Las Vegas, and I forget the line she said specifically, but it was something to the effect of, "You don't do this to white people," or something like that. And we've had different versions of that, not just racial, but someone will claim that I belong to a political party, whatever theirs is opposite of theirs. You know, I've been accused of being both. It just depends on what side they're coming from. Some people say, oh, he must be voting for Trump. He must be voting for Biden. But just based on how they are characterizing the quote other. So that was a specific reference to an accusation that was made in that video against us. So I think if people do that, they're jumping to a conclusion that is not there, that they're kind of, again, like I'm saying with the political side of things, they're making an accusation based on actually their prejudices and not seeing that it's coming from the content of the video itself.
Yeah, so they're like just looking at the titles, not really
which
analyzing the video.
And I don't blame them, because we all do that to a certain extent. We all have, we all see the world through our life experience, and we tend to want to see things maybe more than other people do. That's human nature. So I don't blame them, but I would just urge them to maybe take a second before reacting to see, because again, I as far as I know, we only really deal with what's happening in the videos.
Okay, fair enough. So we're getting on the last two questions. The one that I'm going to next is so obviously you have the vest stuff to protect you. I remember recently I've seen a video where some guy's like, ha ha ha, you should get a bigger bulletproof vest. So it's clear, like, especially in the US where guns are a thing down there, you kind of need to protect yourself. That being said, as someone who deals with anxiety, I can see how some people might see you coming up to them with the big vest and the like negates and tapping things on their car, how that could be kind of frightening. Do you think that there's a significant amount of people that are acting out of just anxiety, or do you just think it's all malice and you're giving them like kind of a platform to be a dickhead just because they're a dickhead naturally?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I am conscious of that, in that's why my vest it says Cart Narcs on the front. You'll notice that I'm very aware of how I approach people. Like, I could jump up over their shoulder or whatever, but you'll see in the videos, I'm like, I'll do a wide swoop around. I'll point at the cart very specifically. Again, I've got a wand. I'll point to the cart. I'll point to the return. In none of my videos will you see somebody say right off the bat, "What are you doing? Here's my wallet, or don't carjack me." It's funny you mentioned that, because on the back end, people will try to rationalize things that way. Not necessarily people I'm talking to, but like I'll give you an example from Texas, where this whole bulletproof vest thing came from. Was I approached a man in his work van, and I pointed to the cart. Didn't have the vest. I just had like a little like a fishing vest, or something you'd have for paintball or something, but it still said Cart Narcs, and I was pointing at the cart. And he was joking with me. He's like, yeah, I'm not taking that back. Why don't you do it for me, buddy? So he knew I was talking about the cart. Yeah. And then I said, no, I need for you to take this back, because it's your cart, and I'm not going to be here every time to take your cart back, blah, 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 blah. So 30 seconds of chatting. He knows we're talking about the cart. Then comes out the gun. And after that video, this vest was actually given to me by a police officer in Louisiana who saw that video. He was a fan. He said, "Man, I got an extra vest. You can have it." And I said, "Absolutely. Thank you so much." So now when I talked to the police officer in Texas after the fact, his thought was, or his conversation with me was, well, the man in the car, he might claim that he was scared by you. He didn't know what you were doing. And I said, well, it's very clear in the video that he did know what I was doing. We had a brief conversation about what I was doing, and he still decided to pull a gun out. He's like, well, that's what he's going to say. I said, well, I have the video. Now, that being said, there's a video I have not released yet where same sort of thing happens. This is in Long Island, where a man had left his cart out, and I talked to him about it, and he told me to F off a couple of times. We're talking for a minute or so about the cart. It's very clearly about the cart. Same thing, Cart Narcs. I'm asking him, hey, please, I've got a traffic wand. It's or like you'd see at a baseball game where they're directing people around. Yeah. There's no weapons on my body. I don't carry anything whatsoever, even a knife, a pepper spray. Because I want, like you're saying, I want it to be absolutely clear this is not any kind of attack or anything like that. I'm talking about carts.
Yeah.
And you'll see in my videos that's 100% what happens, except for this video I haven't released yet, where after about a minute, you could see the wheels in his head turning, and he goes, "What are you doing with that baton there, that weapon?" It's like, okay, you know what you're doing right now. You're building a case. They call it victim, and I did an interview with a police officer. He says, yeah, we get this a lot. It's called victim embellishment. It's where someone will claim that, oh, I don't know, maybe they had a gun, or I felt threatened, when their behavior shows the opposite. In this case, this was this man, again, after the cart conversation, he said, 2 minutes later, I don't know, maybe you're gonna carjack me. And of course, I'm trying to keep things light and funny. I was like, you can have my wand, my orange wand. Like, I'm giving it to him. He won't have it. He's trying to build that case. So you raise a good point, and it is something I'm conscious of. But I believe the way I do it doesn't allow a reasonable person to say that. And I've never run into a person who's, besides this one guy who's clearly after the fact trying to backsell his version of things. And again, if it was something I was doing, I'd be in trouble for it legally. So it's a good question, but something I'm very conscious of.
Okay, fair enough. So just the last question is, where do you see the Cart Narcs going from here? Obviously, you guys are growing pretty fast. Do you have any plans?
There's a lot of options there. Probably do longer form ones, and people ask for this a lot. They're like, man, I wish your videos were longer than 4 or 5 minutes or whatever. Maybe like a whole series of videos about a certain city. Like, oh, hey, we're in New Orleans today, so we're gonna do a couple Cart Narcs. We're just gonna talk to people, people's opinions. Because I get approached by, you see it in some videos, I get approached by employees who tell me their experiences. It's funny, I was in the Baton Rouge area, and this guy left his card out, and he comes out, he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And he's got a thick Cajun accent. And he goes, my daughter and I are such fans of yours. So like, putting all those together in in a more of a long form package, some guest stars. I've had a few civilians, just everyday folks who are fans, saying, hey, if you come to whatever Albuquerque, I know the area, I'm happy to show you around. So I've had a couple folks kind of as like spotters. I don't have them do as much of the interaction, a little bit, but not like I do, obviously. And then a few, quote, celebrities who've showed support either publicly or privately, who maybe now, especially now that we're kind of in the with quotes, Corona world, where we have less restrictions on stuff, that sort of thing. If it's just me doing this as a hobby, as a part-time sort of thing, I think it's good, because if that's all it is, that's fine, because I hear so much, like every day I'm told, I fixed my girlfriend or my mom or my husband or my brother or my son, or I used to leave my card out and I didn't even think about it. So I think it's a good, it's a civic message in general. So if that's all it is, if it's just me being silly by myself, that's fine too.
That's fair enough. And just a question on my end. Are you the only Cart Narc? Because I've heard people say that like every single person is just you in a different place, but not an accent or like.
Right. No, it's funny because there's people who I'm friends with who have that same question. So and they feel kind of silly, but it's not a silly question. And it is just me. And I said this when Dr. Phil did our episode. But I do the accents and the, excuse me, not a peanut. That's, again, to make it light and silly, because the idea is it's an easy request from a very silly person doing a silly thing. And so that some people choose to react so childishly, and again, people use the baby analogy, like this is how babies would react or toddlers would react, but they're not big enough to hurt you, essentially. They want to flip out and have a temper tantrum. So yeah, it's just me, unless you see the other person on camera. But again, that's just for the silliness. And I liken it to like the South Park guys. Like, it's mostly just those two guys and like one or two of their female voice actress friends. But because you're seeing a different character on screen, you suspend your disbelief. Like, it's just those South Park guys, but that's fine because it's a different, quote, character doing the things. And that's, I think, the same idea. So I don't blame people who still have that question.
Yeah, well, you must be good at accents because you have
Yeah.
people.
Well, then I get on the other hand of that, I get people like, man, that's a terrible accent. I know that's Sebastian. That was awful.
Meanwhile,
but again,
I'm just sitting here like, that sounds like every gay friend I've ever had.
Not a gay character, by the way. It's but anyway, I hear what you're saying. Again, that's fine. It's like reading a book, you know.
Yeah.
It's you can put whatever you want on it, and that's okay. It's however you want to see it.
All right. Well, thank you for answering my questions. I really did not expect you to be like, yeah, let's Zoom call on this.
Well, you know, I come from a place where, or a career, I should say, where you have to take steps to get up there. So I have not, that I'm aware of. I don't think I've ever turned down an interview. And by the way, this is how people get in trouble: is they say something on a podcast or an interview that something else you're fired, whatever. That's okay. You know, that's you can't live in fear. So I'm happy to help out people, no matter if they are Dr. Phil or people who are still
Hopefully
getting up
I'm
and
not
running
Dr. Phil.
or if they're getting up on YouTube. Or I don't discriminate on political aspects either. I've been on the H3 podcast, which from what I understand is pretty liberal. Been on Fox News. As long as they're willing to talk about carts and not about their politics, that's fine by me. I don't care. It's like to our conversation earlier, I try to stick to the principle and not let the side issues distract.
Okay. Well, I think I'm gonna wrap this up. Then I only have a few more minutes on my free plan on Zoom because I'm cheap. So thank you very much. Do you want to plug anything? Where can people find you on YouTube? Just the Cart Narcs, or?
Yeah, I'd say YouTube's the best. I mean, Cart Narcs is on every platform, but YouTube's probably the easiest one as far as just it lays it out there by date or by view count or by, like you said, keyword. That's probably the easiest one, just algorithm-wise, to find what you're looking for if you are looking for something specific.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah,
and
thanks for
I hope
having me.
you have a
Appreciate
good
it.
evening.
You too.
Bye. So my major takeaway from this interaction is that he legitimately believes pretty much everything he says. I don't think he's lying to any of the questions given in the interview. He legitimately does not see how his actions can come off sometimes, and when you bring it up, it's like, oh well, they're reading into it. They don't know what they're doing, or they're building a case to protect themselves. They don't actually think that way. They're not actually intimidated by me at all. If there's racism in my titles, people are reading into it. If there's ableism, well, maybe that's just not your taste, and maybe it's a political thing. The thing is, you can't really, I don't think you can convince this guy that he's doing anything wrong. I don't think you can show him any example of his behavior and have him legitimately go, oh yeah, okay, maybe I shouldn't have done that. I think he will always think that he's doing a good thing because his goal, or the goal of the Cart Narcs, is inherently a good thing. So if, the goal of the channel is a good thing, then clearly everything he does is justified. It's the same kind of fucking Batman-esque vigilante thinking that goes on in comic books, but does not translate to real life. His channel can be likened to killing a fly with a bazooka. Yeah, you killed the fly that was being a nuisance, but you also ruined the living room and blew a hole in the wall. So, what did we get from this? We got a bigger fucking problem than the problem to begin with. If I were to give some advice that I really don't think he would take, I would just say you need to be a little more cognizant in the way that you appear to other people. While your channel is good and it is funny and you're objectively doing a correct thing, sometimes you go over the top and you refuse to see how your actions influence other people or how you come off to other people as, a tall white man in a bulletproof vest who is slamming things onto people's cars. I feel it's a bit disingenuous that he implies that, they're just building a case. Because no, they just live in the real world, and the real world sucks. And normally when shit like that happens, it's a bad time. I don't think this is a bad channel. I will continue watching their content because it is funny, and there are people who are legitimately assholes. But I do think it's a bit of a ethical paradox. And I think people should be calling out some of the more problematic aspects of his videos so that he can grow and learn and grow the channel more. If you go online, all you see is people praising him blindly, nonstop. I think I only saw like 2 or 3 critical videos. Everyone on Reddit loves him, everyone on YouTube loves him. And him, like, yet again, I love his content. But we do need to address some of the more problematic aspects that is very obviously going on in his videos. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. If you want to support me, do all the YouTube stuff, comment, subscribe, share, all that. There's a donation link in the comments because I don't have a Patreon or anything. You also have a few referral links for Skillshare, Instacart, and ArtPal. So if you want to help me out financially, you can check out the links there. I also do photo editing for as low as $15. So if you want to contact me for that, my email and website and stuff will be in the links in the description below. If there's something you want me to tackle next, please let me know in the comments. This is iHeartGameplay signing off. Yes, I finally learned how to do a ending for a video. Surprising.